Last mining season brought one of the most surprising moments ever seen on the gold fields, followed by fans of the hit series Gold Rush, where viewers have watched crews battle harsh weather, broken equipment, and risky investments for years. The story begins during what seemed like a normal production season in the remote, gold-rich region of the Yukon, where miners race against short summers to pull as much gold as possible before winter freezes everything solid again. Tony Beets and his crew were running their massive dredge along a stretch of water near Indian River, expecting another routine week of digging through gravel and mud that had produced gold for generations. As part of normal planning, the crew used ground-scanning equipment to map what lay under the riverbed before moving the dredge forward, a step miners use to avoid damaging equipment and to make sure gold-rich ground is being targeted. But during one scan, the radar operator noticed patterns that didn't match natural soil or rock formations. Instead of random shapes caused by thousands of years of river movement, the readings showed straight lines and empty spaces that looked organized, almost like something man-made. At first, the crew assumed the machine was malfunctioning, since mining operations depend on reliable data and mistakes can cost thousands of dollars per hour. However, after repeating the scans with multiple machines and checking results again, the strange readings remained. Tony, known for being tough and practical, initially brushed it off, thinking the crew was wasting time chasing shadows when gold production mattered more. But curiosity and caution slowly took over. If something unusual was buried there, destroying it without investigation could cause legal trouble, especially if it turned out to have historical or archaeological importance. Mining permits are strict, and violating regulations could shut down operations completely. So, instead of ignoring the anomaly, Tony ordered careful excavation. Smaller machines were used, removing gravel slowly rather than rushing forward. For 3 tense days, workers peeled back layers of frozen soil and river material, while production slowed, and tension grew among crew members worried about losing valuable mining time. Eventually, they uncovered unusual underground structures that looked deliberate, not natural. Word spread quickly, and within days officials arrived, asking questions and eventually halting mining in that section while investigations began. The once loud mining sites suddenly fell quiet, equipment stood idle, and workers worried about their paychecks while rumors spread about what had really been found. For a crew used to fighting nature and mechanical breakdowns, dealing with unknown buried structures and government attention was something entirely new. And it marked the beginning of a mystery that would become one of the most talked-about moments of the season. To understand why the discovery caused such a shock, it helps to understand the long journey that led Tony and his family to build one of the strongest mining operations in the region. Decades ago, Tony arrived in northern Canada with construction skills, strong determination, and a willingness to work harder than most people would dare in such a harsh environment. Mining in this region is not romantic treasure hunting like movies often show. Instead, it involves heavy machines, constant repairs, freezing temperatures, endless mud, and financial risk that can bankrupt crews if a season goes wrong. Tony spent years learning how permafrost ground behaves, how to fix equipment himself when parts were unavailable, and how to keep crews motivated during exhausting work schedules. Slowly, he moved from working for others to owning his own mining claims, buying used equipment, and developing efficient ways to mine ground others thought was worthless. His biggest gamble came when he invested in dredging equipment, massive floating machines that scoop up river gravel continuously. Many operators had failed with dredges because they are expensive and difficult to maintain, but Tony's mechanical knowledge allowed him to modify and repair systems rather than pay outside contractors, saving huge costs. Over time, his operations began producing steady gold, bringing financial success and allowing his family to become deeply involved in mining work. Television audiences later became familiar with the Beets family through the mining series that airs on networks such as Discovery Channel, where viewers saw both mining victories and family conflicts unfold on screen. Success, however, also brought attention from environmental regulators concerned about land impact, creating frequent tension between miners and authorities. Tony earned a reputation for being stubborn and outspoken, often clashing with officials, while still managing to keep operations running legally. His mining empire supported many workers and families who depended on seasonal income, making production delays serious for everyone involved. That is why the discovery under the dredge felt so threatening. Every idle day costs money, and uncertainty can break an entire season. Crew members began worrying not only about lost gold, but about possible shutdowns or long investigations. The discovery also created fear that rumors and speculation could hurt the operation's reputation. Some workers wondered if hidden structures might be linked to old settlements, forgotten projects, or abandoned operations from past decades. Others feared permanent closure of parts of the claim. For Tony, who had fought countless challenges to build his mining success, facing a mystery that might involve authorities and historical investigations felt like entering unfamiliar territory where hard work and stubbornness alone might not fix the problem. As investigations continued and mining operations slowed around the affected zone, uncertainty spread across the entire camp, creating tension among workers used to solving problems with machines and manpower, rather than waiting for officials to provide answers. Experts arrived to examine the site, studying soil layers, structural remains, and historical records to understand how something structured could have ended up buried beneath decades of gravel and river movement. Meanwhile, production losses mounted, and every silent machine represented gold still trapped underground. Crew members gathered at night, discussing theories, some believing the discovery could turn into an exciting historical find, while others worried it might end their season early. Tony faced pressure from all sides, balancing cooperation with authorities while pushing to resume mining as quickly as possible. His frustration showed as equipment stood unused, a rare sight for a man known for keeping machines running day and night during peak season. Viewers who followed the season saw a different side of mining life. Not just broken engines or flooding pits, but uncertainty that no amount of mechanical skill could fix. Eventually, limited mining resumed outside the investigation zone, but the mystery remained part of camp conversations long after operations restarted. The incident also reminded miners and viewers alike that even in regions worked for over a century, surprises can still emerge from the ground. The Yukon remains vast and full of stories buried beneath gravel and ice, and every season carries the possibility of unexpected discoveries. For Tony and his crew, the experience reinforced how fragile mining success can be when outside forces intervene. Equipment, gold prices, weather, and regulations already create enough pressure, and now unknown buried history added another unpredictable element. Yet the team continued pushing forward, determined not to let one strange discovery end decades of hard work. In the end, the season became memorable not only for gold totals, but for reminding everyone that mining still holds mysteries, and sometimes the biggest discoveries are not shiny nuggets, but unanswered questions lying hidden beneath the ground, waiting until the right moment and the right dredge uncovers them. Tony's mining season was supposed to be like any other, with huge machines running day and night, crews working against freezing weather, and everyone hoping the gold totals would finally justify the massive costs of running a dredge in the Yukon wilderness. But everything changed on a morning that started like any other, when Tony's crew noticed strange readings coming from the ground beneath the dredge. At first, they assumed it was normal equipment trouble, something miners deal with all the time in rough terrain. But as the radar scans continued, the images showed shapes that didn't belong underground. Instead of normal gravel and rock layers, there appeared to be straight lines and empty spaces beneath the ground, shapes that looked man-made. Tony, who has spent decades mining and seen almost everything nature can throw at miners, knew something was wrong. Machines were stopped, and the crew gathered around the monitor, staring in silence as the underground picture became clearer. Nobody expected to find anything except gold-bearing gravel, yet the radar showed something large hidden below them. Some crew members joked nervously that they had found an old mine tunnel, but Tony wasn't laughing. Shutting down operations even for a day could cost thousands of dollars, and if something serious was buried there, the entire mining season could be in danger. Curiosity quickly turned into tension as Tony decided to dig carefully and see what lay beneath. As excavators removed layers of gravel, workers suddenly hit something solid that machines could not easily break through. Instead of stone, they uncovered smooth concrete, something no one expected to find in this remote mining ground. The discovery sent shockwaves through the crew, because concrete structures don't just appear in the middle of untouched mining claims. This meant someone had built something there long before Tony ever arrived. Questions spread quickly. Who built it? Why was it hidden? And why did nobody know about it? The excitement of possible discovery mixed with fear that their mining work might be stopped completely. As digging continued, they uncovered what looked like the roof of a large underground chamber, perfectly shaped and clearly designed by engineers, not nature. Tony realized they might be standing on top of something much bigger than just another mining obstacle. When the crew carefully opened part of the structure, they discovered empty underground rooms connected by thick concrete walls, forming chambers large enough to store equipment or supplies. These rooms were old, yet still strong, suggesting they were built to last for decades. Workers shined lights inside, seeing bolts fixed into floors and ceilings, showing that heavy machinery or containers may have once been installed there. What made the discovery even stranger was the fact that everything inside was empty. Whatever had been stored there was long gone. Even more puzzling was how well the structure had been hidden. Above the chambers, layers of gravel looked natural, as if the land had never been disturbed. Someone had carefully covered the construction site decades earlier to make it look untouched. This discovery started rumors among the crew that the government might have built something secretly during the Cold War era, when many remote locations across North America were used for military or intelligence projects. Soon, officials arrived to inspect the site after hearing about the discovery. Government representatives examined documents and measurements, while Tony argued that this was still his mining claim, and shutting down his operation would cost millions. But officials seemed more concerned about what the underground chambers represented than about mining rights. When damaged papers were discovered inside one section of the structure, showing government seals and references to something called Operation Northern Vault, the situation quickly escalated. Within days, parts of the mining site were declared restricted, and Tony's legal team began fighting to keep operations alive. Crew members worried they might lose their jobs for the season, and tensions spread through camp as rumors grew. Some believed the area might hide even more structures underground, meaning the entire claim could become off-limits. For Tony, who built his reputation on stubborn determination, walking away was not an option. Yet the more investigators studied the site, the clearer it became that this discovery could change everything about the season. As researchers began digging into old Yukon records, another mystery appeared connected to the discovery, centering on a prospector who vanished decades earlier. His name was Klaus Vandenberg, a quiet miner who arrived in the area shortly after World War II, and quickly developed a reputation as someone who preferred working alone. Old records described him as secretive but successful, often seen carrying gold, yet never officially registering a mining claim. This behavior confused authorities at the time, because filing claims was how miners protected their discoveries. Yet Vandenberg refused to reveal where he was working, telling people only that he had found something bigger than gold. Many dismissed his statements as the ramblings of a lonely miner, but his sudden disappearance in 1952 made people wonder if something darker had happened. In those days, miners sometimes vanished due to accidents, harsh weather, or violent disputes, and investigations often ended quickly because of the territory's vast size. Still, when historians looked back after Tony's discovery, the timing seemed suspicious. Vandenberg disappeared during the same period experts now believed the underground chambers were built or used. Some investigators wondered if he had stumbled onto the hidden facility and learned something he should not have known. Others believed he might have worked with whoever constructed the chambers before vanishing under mysterious circumstances. For Tony and his crew, these stories only deepened the mystery surrounding their mining claim. What began as a search for gold was turning into a puzzle involving government secrecy, forgotten history, and unanswered questions buried for generations beneath the Yukon soil. And as the season continued, everyone wondered whether digging deeper would finally reveal the truth or uncover even more secrets best left hidden. As officials tightened control around the discovery site, life at Tony's camp changed almost overnight, turning what had been a busy mining operation into a place filled with uncertainty and frustration. Normally, the sound of heavy machinery echoed through the valley, from early morning until late at night. But now large sections of ground sat untouched while government teams conducted surveys and inspections. Crew members who had expected a full season of work suddenly worried about paychecks and whether they would even have jobs by the end of the month. Tony himself felt enormous pressure, because every day of delay meant lost gold, lost money, and disappointed workers depending on him. Meetings with lawyers and investigators replaced normal mining planning sessions, and the once simple goal of digging gold turned into a complex battle over land rights and national security concerns. Meanwhile, rumors spread quickly among miners working nearby, and stories about secret military bunkers, hidden weapons storage, or Cold War experiments circulated across camps and local towns. Some people believed the chambers might have stored supplies in case of a future war, while others guessed intelligence agencies used remote Yukon locations to hide sensitive equipment. Tony, however, cared less about theories and more about whether his operation would survive. He argued that whatever had once been underground had clearly been abandoned, and after 70 years, it should no longer block legal mining. But government representatives warned that until they fully understood the purpose of the structures, they could not allow uncontrolled digging that might destroy historical or strategic evidence. Tension grew between both sides, and the crew could feel that something larger than gold mining was unfolding around them. While radar scans expanded across the claim, new anomalies appeared, suggesting more underground spaces scattered beneath areas Tony had planned to mine next. Each new discovery made the situation more complicated, because it raised the possibility that the entire claim could sit on top of an underground complex rather than just one isolated structure. If that proved true, Tony's entire season could collapse before it truly began, and the financial damage would be enormous. At the same time, investigators diving deeper into old records uncovered more details about Klaus Vandenberg, the mysterious prospector whose story now seemed closely linked to everything happening on Tony's claim. Witness reports from the early 1950s described Vandenberg as someone who often appeared in town after weeks alone in the wilderness, selling small but consistent amounts of gold while refusing to discuss where he found it. He paid cash for supplies, avoided drawing attention, and seemed nervous whenever conversations turned toward mining claims or government officials. Some locals later remembered him warning that powerful people were interested in something he had discovered. When researchers compared old maps with Tony's claim boundaries, they noticed that areas Vandenberg had reportedly worked, overlapped almost perfectly with where the underground chambers were now being discovered. This connection created a chilling possibility. Perhaps Vandenberg accidentally uncovered the hidden installation decades earlier, and became involved in events he could not escape. His disappearance suddenly looked less like an ordinary mining accident, and more like something connected to secrecy surrounding the facility. Old police notes mentioned that his cabin had been found abandoned, supplies left behind as if he planned to return soon. But there were no signs of struggle or travel preparations. For decades, the case faded into history, yet Tony's discovery brought the mystery back into focus. Some crew members even joked uneasily that maybe ghosts of the past were warning them not to keep digging. Though said in humor, the comments showed how deeply the strange situation affected morale. Workers who normally worried only about machinery breakdowns and harsh weather now found themselves thinking about forgotten secrets buried beneath their feet. For Tony, every new historical detail increased pressure, because the more important the discovery seemed, the harder it would be to convince authorities to let mining continue. Despite restrictions, Tony managed to negotiate limited digging in areas not directly connected to the underground structures, hoping to keep some gold production moving while investigations continued. But even these operations felt different, because everyone now watched the ground with suspicion, wondering whether the next scoop of gravel might reveal another hidden chamber. Crews worked cautiously, knowing any discovery could immediately halt progress again. Meanwhile, government survey teams drilled small test holes and inserted cameras into underground spaces, trying to map how large the complex truly was. Early results suggested tunnels or rooms might extend farther than anyone expected, possibly connecting multiple points across the valley floor. If true, whoever built the facility invested enormous resources into construction in one of the most remote parts of North America, raising even more questions about its purpose. Some experts suggested it might have been part of an emergency supply network meant to support military operations during rising Cold War tensions, while others believed intelligence agencies sometimes built hidden communication or storage sites in isolated regions. Yet official answers remained limited, increasing public curiosity as word of the discovery spread beyond mining communities. Online discussions exploded, with people debating theories and sharing old rumors about secret projects across northern territories. For Tony's crew, though, the situation felt less like exciting mystery and more like a threat to their livelihoods. Paychecks depended on gold, not history lessons, and patience wore thin as weeks passed without clear resolution. Still, Tony refused to give up, convinced that once authorities confirmed nothing dangerous remained underground, operations would return to normal. But deep inside, even he wondered whether digging further might uncover something so significant that mining could never resume. As winter slowly approached and daylight hours shortened, the pressure to solve the mystery grew stronger. Every decision carried risk, and everyone involved sensed that whatever lay hidden beneath the claim still held answers waiting to surface, answers that could either save the season or bring Tony's entire operation to an unexpected end. As the investigation moved toward its final stage, everyone at Tony's camp felt the pressure building, because winter was coming fast, and time was running out to save what remained of the mining season. Government experts, engineers, and historians had now spent weeks studying the underground chambers, reviewing documents, and scanning the entire claim area to determine exactly what had been built there decades earlier. Finally, officials called a meeting with Tony and his team to explain what they had learned. According to their findings, the underground complex appeared to be part of a Cold War emergency storage project designed in the early 1950s, when fears of global conflict led governments to create hidden supply sites in remote regions. These locations were meant to store equipment, fuel, and survival materials far from major cities, ensuring that important resources would remain available if war disrupted transportation networks. The Yukon's isolation made it an ideal location for such a project, and investigators believe the chambers discovered under Tony's claim were likely one small part of a larger network planned across northern territories. However, records showed that the project was eventually abandoned as military strategies changed and newer technologies made such hidden supply depots unnecessary. Before leaving, crews sealed entrances and removed equipment, covering structures carefully so the land would appear untouched. Over time, nature erased surface evidence, and knowledge of the facility faded into forgotten archives. This explanation answered many questions, but still left some mysteries unsolved, especially the connection to Klaus Vandenberg. Officials admitted that records about workers or contractors involved in construction were incomplete, leaving open the possibility that Vandenberg might have discovered the site or even worked nearby before his disappearance. Still, investigators found no direct proof linking him to the installation, meaning his fate would likely remain one of the Yukon's many unsolved stories. For Tony, the most important part of the meeting came when authorities announced that, after careful inspection, no hazardous materials or security concerns remained underground. Because the facility had been abandoned for decades and contained nothing dangerous, most of the claim would eventually be cleared for mining again, though certain sections containing chambers would need protection as historical sites. The news brought relief to the camp, but the delay had already cost valuable production time, forcing Tony to push his crew harder than ever to recover lost ground before winter freeze-up. Mining resumed with renewed urgency, and machines once again roared across the valley as crews worked long hours to process as much ground as possible before temperatures dropped too low. Yet the mood around camp had changed. Workers who once saw mining as simply digging for gold now understood that the land beneath them carried stories reaching far beyond modern operations. Every scoop of gravel felt like uncovering layers of forgotten history, and conversations around dinner tables often turned to speculation about how many other secrets still lay hidden across the vast northern wilderness. Tony, known for focusing strictly on results, surprised some crew members by admitting that the discovery was one of the strangest experiences of his long career. He had faced equipment failures, financial risks, and brutal weather, but stumbling onto a buried Cold War installation beneath his dredge was something no miner could expect. Still, his determination to finish the season never weakened. Production numbers slowly improved as gold totals climbed.